The great meeting hall of Nexus Prime stretched out like a metal cathedral in space. Hundreds of alien beings filled the curved seats that rose up from the central floor. Their voices mixed together in a buzz of different languages and sounds. Some clicked, others hummed, and a few made noises that humans could not even hear. Commander Jake Martinez sat in the small section marked for Earth. His plain blue uniform looked simple next to the fancy clothes and metal suits worn by the other species. The translator device in his ear was old and sometimes missed words. He had asked for better equipment many times, but Earth's budget was small compared to the rich alien worlds. At the center of the hall, a tall creature that looked like a giant praying mantis stood up. This was Ambassador Zixtal from the Hegemony, one of the most powerful groups in the galaxy. His forearms moved as he talked, and his big black eyes looked around the room. "My fellow council members," Zixtal said in his clicking voice, "have important business today? But first, let me share something that will amuse you all." The room got quiet. Jake felt his stomach tighten. He knew what was coming. "The humans have sent us another request," Zixtal continued. "They want to join our defense agreement. They offer us their one tiny solar system, their slow chemical rockets, and their ... He paused and made a sound like laughter. "Their metal. Bullets that they shoot from tubes." The whole room erupted in what passed for laughter among the different species. The fish-like Aquarians made bubbling sounds. The Luxari, who were made of pure energy, flickered in bright patterns. Even the serious Corvin soldiers, who rarely showed emotion, shook their heads slightly. Jake stood up and raised his hand. "Permission to speak," he said into his translator, but nobody was listening. The laughter was too loud. A crystal being from the Vexany delegation made musical sounds that clearly meant they thought humans were funny. Near the back, some slug-like creatures were making wet noises that Jake hoped were not insults. "Look at their representative," said another voice. This came from Admiral Kexfo of the Nexari Empire. The blue-skinned humanoid pointed at Jake. "With one of his 6 fingers, he sits there in his cloth uniform while we wear armor that can stop plasma beams. His translator is so old, it probably runs on batteries." More laughter filled the hall. Jake's face turned red, but he kept standing. He had been Earth's ambassador for 3 years, and every meeting was the same. The aliens treated humans like children playing with dangerous toys. "Please," Jake said louder. "Earth has been asking for help for 2 years. We know our technology is not as advanced as yours, but we have other things to offer. Our people are good fighters. We learn fast. We never give up." This only made the laughter worse. A creature that looked like a walking tree made creaking sounds. The Hegemony delegates clicked their mandibles so hard it sounded like rain on metal. "Good fighters," Zixtal said. "You still use weapons that throw pieces of metal? Your fastest ships take months to travel between stars. Our children have better toys than your military equipment." The crystal beings chimed in with their musical voice. "We have watched human entertainment broadcasts. Your species still fights wars with vehicles that roll on wheels and planes that need air to fly. How primitive." Jake felt anger building in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "Our weapons may be simple, but they work. Our ships may be slow, but they are reliable. We have survived everything our planet could throw at us, and we made it to space on our own." "Barely," said another voice. This came from a floating jellyfish-like creature from the drift worlds. "You only left your home planet 50 years ago. We have been traveling the stars for thousands of years." The council's attention started to move away from Jake. The real business of the day was beginning. There was a trade dispute between 2 mining companies, and some pirates had been attacking ships near the rimworlds. These were important matters that affected commerce and security across dozens of star systems. Jake sat down, feeling defeated again. He watched as the council discussed raising taxes on cargo ships and sending patrol fleets to protect trade routes. These aliens controlled technology that seemed like magic to humans. They had faster-than-light communication, energy shields, and weapons that could destroy planets. And they saw Earth as nothing more than a curiosity. His wrist communicator buzzed. The small screen showed an incoming message marked urgent from Earth's command. Jake glanced around to make sure nobody was watching, then read the message quickly. The words made his blood turn cold. Priority 1 alert. Multiple hostile. Contacts detected at system perimeter. Count. Unknown. Estimate 40 plus. Configuration. Not in database. Speed. High sublight. Approaching inner system. Intent. Appears hostile. Request immediate assistance from all allied forces. Repeat. Earth under attack by unknown aliens. Send help. Jake's hand started shaking. He read the message again too. Make sure he understood correctly. Earth was being attacked by aliens nobody had ever seen before. The small Earth Defense Force was probably already fighting for their lives. He stood up again and raised his hand. Emergency. I need to address the council. But the delegates were deep in their discussion about trade routes. Him with annoyance like he was a child interrupting adult conversation. Ambassador Zixtel, Jake called out, forgetting proper procedure. Please, this is an emergency. The mantis-like alien turned his huge eyes toward Jake. Commander Martinez, you will follow proper protocol. If you have a minor issue to discuss, you may submit a formal request and wait for the next open session. This is not a minor issue. Jake's voice cracked with emotion. Earth is under attack. We need help. Now he had the room's attention, but not in a good way. The aliens looked at him like he had lost his mind. Some made sounds that clearly meant they thought he was lying or crazy. Under attack? Zixtel's voice carried disbelief. By whom? The only military activity in your sector involves minor pirate raids and territorial disputes between primitive species. Jake held up his communicator. I just received this message from Earth Command. Unknown hostile aliens are attacking our solar system. They have at least 40 ships. Our defense force is requesting immediate assistance. The room went quiet for a moment. Then the laughter started again, but this time it was meaner. The aliens were not just amused anymore. They were insulting. Oh yes, said Admiral Kexvo. The terrible threat to mighty Earth? Perhaps some asteroids fell toward your planet, and your primitive sensors confused them for warships. The crystal beings made chiming sounds that the translator rendered as mockery. Maybe their own cargo. Ships looked dangerous on their old radar systems. These humans see threats everywhere because they understand so little. Jake felt his face burning with embarrassment and anger. This is not a mistake. Our people are dying while you sit here making jokes. Zixtel raised one of his forearms for silence. When the room quieted down, he spoke in a voice that dripped with false sympathy. Commander Martinez, the Galactic Council cannot be expected to respond to every small problem or pirate attack in the Outer Rim territories. Your species has repeatedly refused to accept our guidance in developing proper defensive capabilities. You have also refused to share what little technology you have with the greater galactic community. The insults kept coming. Another delegate. A slug-like creature with too many eyes spoke in a wet voice. Perhaps if humanity had accepted our generous offer to relocate to the protected primitive species reservation in the Kepler sector, this unfortunate situation could have been avoided. Jake wanted to scream. The generous offer had been to move all humans to a small cluster of worlds where they would be watched and controlled like animals in a zoo. Earth had refused, choosing to struggle alone rather than give up their freedom. Are not asking you to fight our battles, Jake said, trying one last time. We are asking for help as fellow members of the galactic community. Even if you do not consider us equals, surely you believe in basic decency. The silence that followed was worse than the laughter. The aliens looked at him with expressions that ranged from pity to disgust. Finally, Zixtel spoke again. Commander? Martinez, humanity is not a member of the galactic community. Your application has been denied repeatedly because you refuse to meet the basic requirements for membership. You offer nothing of value to advanced civilizations, and you expect us to risk our ships and crews for your sake. Jake's communicator buzzed again. Another message from Earth. This one was even worse. The unknown aliens had destroyed 2 orbital stations and were heading toward Earth itself. The Defense Force was preparing for a final battle they could not possibly win. As he read the message, Jake felt something break inside him. These aliens, these advanced civilizations, were going to let his entire species die because they thought humans were not worth saving. They would sit in their comfortable meeting hall while Earth burned. And tomorrow, they would probably make jokes about the primitive humans who could not even defend themselves. The council had already moved on to other business. Nobody was paying attention to the human delegate anymore. Jake gathered his few belongings and walked toward the exit, knowing that he would probably never see Earth again. Captain Ryan Brooks stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, staring at the main screen that showed empty space beyond Earth's solar system. The Liberty was humanity's newest and largest warship, right? But Ryan knew it was still tiny compared to what other species could build. The ship had been Earth's pride for 2 years, but now it felt like a toy boat facing a hurricane. Captain called Lieutenant Amy Walsh from her position at the sensor station. "I'm getting readings from the outer system monitoring posts. Something big is coming our way." Ryan walked over to Amy's station and looked at the glowing displays. Numbers and symbols moved across the screen, but what they showed made his stomach feel heavy. "How many contacts?" "At least 47 ships, sir." "Maybe more? Are coming from beyond the ice belt? Moving faster than anything in our database?" Amy's voice was steady, but Ryan could hear the worry underneath. Chief Engineer Pete Johnson looked up from his station near the back of the bridge. "Captain, I'm reading energy signatures that don't make sense. Whatever they're using for power makes our fusion reactors look like candles." Ryan had been in the Earth Defense Force for 15 years. He had fought pirates near the asteroid belt and helped rescue colonists from failed settlements. But he had never seen anything like this. The unknown ships were huge. Their technology was beyond human understanding, and they were heading straight for Earth. "Communications? Try to make contact," Ryan ordered. "All frequencies, all languages, in our database." Lieutenant Danny Carter worked at the communications panel, sending messages in dozens of different languages. He tried radio waves, laser beams, and even the basic mathematical signals that scientists said any intelligent species should understand. But there was no response from the approaching fleet. "Nothing, sir," Danny reported after 10 minutes. "They're not answering any of our signals. Either they can't hear us, or they don't want to talk." The unknown ships kept coming. As they got closer, the sensors could see them more clearly. They were massive, some as big as small cities. Their hulls were dark and covered with strange patterns that seemed to move and shift. Energy readings showed they had weapons that could probably destroy Earth's entire defense fleet without much effort. "Sir," Amy said quietly, "based on their current speed and direction, they'll reach Earth orbit in 6 hours. Ryan felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders. Earth had 12 warships total, counting the Liberty. The planet also had orbital defense platforms and fighter squadrons. But against 47 advanced alien vessels, it would be like throwing rocks at tanks. "Get me a connection to Fleet Command," Ryan ordered. "Priority channel." The main screen flickered and showed the face of Admiral Helen Clark, commander of Earth's entire defense force. She was sitting in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by displays showing the approaching threat. "Ryan," she said without greeting. "I assume you're seeing what we're seeing?" "Yes, ma'am." "Orders?" Admiral Clark was quiet for a moment. Ryan could see other people moving around behind her, probably trying to figure out what to do when faced with an impossible situation. "All ships are to form a defensive line at the edge of Earth's gravity well," she finally said. "We'll try. To buy time for evacuation efforts, maybe we can negotiate with them once they see we're willing to fight." Ryan knew what she was really saying. They were going to die fighting, but at least they would die trying to protect their home. "Understood, Admiral. Liberty will take point position." The connection ended, and Ryan turned to his crew. These were good people who had volunteered to serve on humanity's frontier. Most of them were young, barely out of training. They deserved better than to die in a hopeless battle against aliens who would not even talk to them. "You heard the orders," Ryan said. "Out. All hands to battle stations." This is not a drill. Alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Crew members ran to their positions, checking weapons and shields. The Liberty's fusion reactor hummed louder as it provided power to the ship's systems, In the weapons bays, technicians loaded railgun, ammunition, and armed the missile tubes as the Liberty moved into position. Ryan could see the other Earth ships on his display. The USS Constitution, the USS Defiant, the USS Yorktown, and 8 others formed a line between the approaching aliens and Earth. Together, they represented everything humanity could put into space. It was not nearly enough, Captain Pete called. From the engineering station, all systems are running at peak efficiency. Railguns are loaded with armor-piercing rounds. Missile tubes are armed with our best warheads. Thank you, Pete. Ryan looked around the bridge at his crew. I want everyone to know that it has been an honor serving with all of you. Whatever happens in the next few hours, we'll face it together. The alien fleet was close enough now that they could see individual ships without using sensors. They were beautiful in a terrible way, with smooth curves and flowing lines that looked almost alive. But there was something wrong about them, too. Something that made Ryan's skin crawl when he looked at them. Captain Amy said urgently, I'm detecting energy buildup in the alien ships. I think they're charging weapons. Ryan had hoped they might. Try to communicate once they got closer. Maybe they would demand surrender or ask for tribute or even just explain what they wanted. But the energy readings suggested they were preparing to attack without warning. All ships, this is Liberty. Ryan broadcast on the fleet frequency. Prepare for incoming fire. Stay in formation and return fire as soon as they attack. The alien ships spread out as they approached, forming a wide line that stretched across space. They moved with perfect coordination like a school of fish or a flock of birds. Each ship knew exactly where it was supposed to be, and they all acted as one mind. Sir Danny said from communications, I'm picking up a signal from the alien fleet. It's not directed at us. They're talking to each other. Can you translate it? Negative, sir. It's unlike any language in our database. But Captain ... on Danny paused, listening to something through his headphones. I think they're talking about us. The signal patterns change whenever they look in our direction. Ryan wished he knew what the aliens were saying about humanity. Were they discussing terms for surrender? Planning their attack? Or maybe just deciding whether humans were worth talking to at all? The answer came in the form of energy beams that lit up space like lightning. The alien weapons were beautiful and terrible, creating streams of blue and white light that reached across millions of kilometers in seconds. But their target was not the human fleet. Instead, the beams struck the mining station at Ceres, the research outpost near Jupiter's moons, and the small colony on Mars. The installation simply vanished, turned into expanding clouds of glowing gas. My God, Amy whispered. They're destroying our colonies. Ryan watched in horror as the aliens systematically eliminated every human presence in the outer solar system. They were not trying to conquer or capture anything. They were erasing humanity from space with casual efficiency. Sir Pete called out, I'm reading massive explosions from the Mars colony. 3 million people were living there. 3 million. People gone in seconds. Ryan felt sick. These aliens were not just attacking Earth's defenses. They were committing genocide, wiping out entire populations without even attempting to communicate. All ships prepare for engagement, Ryan ordered. These things are not here to negotiate. They're here to kill us all. The alien fleet turned toward Earth, moving in their perfect formation. As they approached, Ryan could see weapon ports opening along their hulls like the eyes of predators. Energy began building in those ports, the same energy that had just destroyed humanity's colonies. Captain Amy reported, They're targeting our defensive line. Multiple ships are locking onto each of our vessels. Ryan looked at the tactical display. 47 alien ships against 12 human vessels. The math was simple and brutal. Even if each human ship could destroy 3 or 4 aliens, they would still be overwhelmed. But they had to try. Earth had 60 billion people who deserved a chance to live. Maybe the human fleet could damage the aliens enough to make them reconsider. Maybe other species would see the battle and decide to help. Maybe something would happen to change the odds. All weapons target the lead alien vessel, Ryan commanded. Fire everything we have. The USS Liberty's railguns spoke first, hurling metal slugs at nearly the speed of light. The projectiles covered the distance to the alien ship in seconds, striking its hull with the force of small nuclear weapons. For a moment, Ryan thought they had actually done damage. Then the alien ship's hull flowed like liquid, healing the damage as if nothing had happened. Energy shields flickered around the vessel, creating a barrier that would stop anything humanity could throw at it. Direct hit, no effect, Amy reported. Their hull appears to be self-repairing. The other human ships opened fire, filling space with missiles and energy beams. For a few seconds, it looked like the 4th of July as hundreds of weapons struck the alien fleet. But when the light faded, all 47 alien ships were still there, completely undamaged. The return fire was devastating. Blue energy beams reached out from the alien fleet, striking the USS Yorktown first. The human ship's shields lasted for perhaps 2 seconds before collapsing. The battle for Earth had become a slaughter. Captain Ryan Brooks watched from the bridge of the damaged USS Liberty as another human ship exploded under alien fire. The USS Defiant lasted only seconds before the enemy's energy beams tore through its hull like paper. 300 more brave souls were gone, and the alien fleet had not even slowed down. Captain Amy Walsh called from her sensor station. "The Constitution is breaking apart. I'm reading multiple hull breaches and core failure warnings." Ryan could see the Constitution on the main screen, spinning slowly as atmosphere and debris poured from dozens of holes in its hull. The ship's captain, Maria Santos, had been Ryan's friend since training academy. Now her ship was dying, and there was nothing he could do to help. Sir Pete Johnson reported from engineering. "Our own structural integrity is down to 20%. We've lost main power to decks 6 through 10. Life support is failing in the forward sections." The Liberty shook again as another energy beam grazed its hull. Warning lights flashed throughout the bridge, and the smell of burning electronics filled the air. Ryan knew his ship would not survive another direct hit. On Earth below, the evacuation efforts had become desperate. General Susan Davis coordinated the global defense from the command bunker deep under the mountains of North America. Every television and radio broadcast carried the same message: find shelter, stay underground, prepare for the worst. In the bunker, General Davis stood before a wall of screens showing the disaster unfolding in space. Each screen represented a different part of Earth's defense network, and almost all of them were flashing red with failure warnings. "General," reported Colonel Kevin Turner from his communications station, "we're losing contact with the outer colonies. New Sydney is gone. The research station at Europa has stopped transmitting. Mars Base 1 sent a final message saying the sky was on fire, then nothing." General Davis had spent 30 years in the military, but she had never faced anything like this. The aliens were not just attacking Earth's defenses. They were systematically destroying every sign of human presence in space. Colonies that had taken decades to build were being erased in minutes. "What about the civilian evacuation ships?" "Shh. The passenger liners are trying to reach the outer jump points," Kevin replied. "But sir, they're too slow. The alien fleet will catch them before they can escape the system." On the main screen, General Davis could see the Liberty and the few remaining defense ships making their last stand. The brave crews were buying time with their lives. But it was not enough time to save everyone. Meanwhile, on Nexus Prime, Commander Jake Martinez stood alone in the empty human delegation office. The Galactic Council was still in session, but they had moved on to discussing trade regulations for mineral exports. Nobody seemed to care that an entire species was being destroyed a few hundred light years away. Jake had tried 3 more times to interrupt the council session. Each time, the aliens had dismissed him with growing annoyance. Ambassador Zixtel had finally ordered station security to remove Jake from the chamber if he caused any more disruptions. Now Jake was preparing to send one final message to Earth. He knew it would probably never arrive, but he had to try. His people deserved to know that someone in the galaxy remembered them, even if no one was willing to help. "This is Commander Jake Martinez of the Earth Diplomatic Mission." He spoke into his recorder. "If anyone receives this message, please know that humanity fought bravely. We asked for help, but we were refused. We faced extinction alone, But we did not surrender. Remember us. Back in space, the alien fleet had finished destroying the human defensive line. Only 3 ships remained: the Liberty, the Ranger, and the small patrol vessel Guardian. All 3 were badly damaged and running. On emergency power, Captain Ryan Brooks made a decision that would define humanity's last moments. All remaining ships, this is Liberty. We're going to ram the lead alien vessel. If we're going to die, we'll take one of them with us. The response came immediately from Captain Ellen Price of the Ranger. Understood, Liberty. It's been an honor serving with you. The Guardian's captain, Lieutenant Commander Alex Stone, added his voice to the channel. We'll follow your lead. The 3 battered human ships turned toward the massive alien fleet. Their engines, damaged as they were, pushed them forward at maximum speed. It was a hopeless gesture, but it was all they had left. The aliens seemed to understand what the humans were planning. The entire fleet focused their weapons on the approaching ships, filling space with deadly energy beams. The Guardian disappeared first, consumed by blue fire. The Ranger lasted a few seconds longer before its reactor exploded in a brilliant flash. The Liberty somehow kept flying. Its hull was more whole than metal, its shields were gone, and half its crew was dead or injured. But Captain Brooks and his remaining crew members pushed their dying ship toward the enemy with determination that impressed even their alien attackers. Pete, Ryan called to his chief engineer. Can you give me one more push from the engines? I can overload the reactor, Pete replied. But it'll kill us all when it goes. Do it. As the Liberty accelerated toward the alien flagship, something unexpected happened. The approaching vessel that Amy had detected earlier finally came into sensor range, and what they saw made no sense at all. The new ship was enormous. It's easily 10 times the size of the largest alien vessel. Its hull seemed to be made of living metal that flowed and shifted like water, but maintained perfect structural strength. Along its sides, thousands of weapon ports opened like the eyes of some massive creature. But the most shocking thing about the ship was the signal it was broadcasting. In clear, perfect English, a calm voice announced, "This is the UES Retribution of the Terran Deep Space Fleet. All hostile forces are directed to cease fire immediately and withdraw from this system." On the Liberty's bridge, everyone stopped what they were doing and stared at the communications panel. The voice was human, speaking with an accent that sounded like it came from Earth's North American region. But no human ship had ever been built that large, and no human technology could create the energy readings their sensors were detecting. U.S. Retribution, Ryan broadcast in response. This is Captain Ryan Brooks of the Earth Defense Force vessel Liberty. Please identify yourself. We have no record of any human ship matching your description. The answer came immediately. Captain Brooks, this is Admiral Lisa Parker commanding the Deep Space Reconnaissance Division. We have been monitoring the situation and have come to provide assistance. Ryan looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They all shared the same expression of confusion and desperate hope. If this was really a human ship, where had it come from? And how had humanity built something so advanced without Earth knowing about it? The alien fleet had also noticed the new arrival. Their perfect formation shifted as they turned sensors toward the massive vessel. Whatever their instruments were telling them, it was clearly causing concern. Several alien ships moved into defensive positions, while others seemed to be trying to scan the newcomer. Admiral Parker's next transmission was directed at the alien fleet. Hostile vessels, you have violated Terran space and attacked human civilian populations. This is your final warning. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The alien response was swift and brutal. Every ship in their fleet turned toward the Retribution and fired their most powerful weapons. The same energy beams that had destroyed human colonies and warships reached out across space, striking the mysterious vessel with enough force to crack a moon. For a moment, space around the Retribution was filled with brilliant light as dozens of energy beams hit its hull. Ryan held his breath, waiting to see another human ship die under alien fire. Then, the light faded. and the Retribution sat in space completely undamaged. Its hull showed no scorch marks, no damage at all. The alien weapons that had effortlessly destroyed Earth's best ships had not even scratched the newcomer's surface. Impossible, Amy whispered from her station. Those weapons should have vaporized anything. Admiral Parker's voice came over the communication channel again, and this time there was a note of cold anger in her tone. You have chosen poorly. What happened next could not really be called a battle. It was more like a demonstration of technology, so advanced that it seemed like magic. The Retribution did not fire energy beams or launch missiles. Instead, it shot what appeared to be simple metal projectiles. But these projectiles moved at speeds that should have been impossible. The first alien ship to be hit simply stopped existing. One moment it was there, a massive vessel bristling with weapons and shields. The next moment, there was only empty space and a few pieces of debris floating where the ship had been. The second alien ship tried to dodge, but the projectile followed its movement with perfect accuracy. The round passed completely through the vessel from front to back, leaving a hole so perfectly round that it looked like it had been cut with a giant drill. The ship's atmosphere vented through the hole, and secondary explosions began tearing it apart from the inside. But the truly terrifying weapons were the ones that did not seem to be weapons at all. Several alien ships simply stopped functioning. Space around Earth had become a graveyard of alien ships. Pieces of destroyed vessels drifted slowly in the darkness, while the few surviving enemy craft hung motionless in the Retribution's gravity field. Captain Ryan Brooks stared at his sensor displays, trying to understand what had just happened. The massive human ship, the UES Retribution, floated nearby like a metal mountain. Its surface rippled and flowed as if alive, constantly repairing tiny damage and adjusting its shape. Ship was so large that Ryan's entire fleet could have fit inside one of its weapon bays. Admiral Parker, Ryan said into his communication system. Sir, we need to understand what just happened here. Earth Command has no record of ships like yours. How did humanity build the Retribution? The response came quickly, but Admiral Parker's voice carried a note of sadness. Captain Brooks, what you call humanity is actually a single colony world. Earth is one of thousands of human settlements scattered across the galaxy. The words hit Ryan like a physical blow. He looked around his bridge at the shocked faces of his crew. Amy Walsh had stopped working at her sensor station and was staring at the communication panel. Pete Johnson looked like someone had just told him that everything he believed was wrong. That's impossible, Ryan said weakly. Earth is the human homeworld. We evolved there. We built our first cities there. We launched our first ships to the stars from there. You did indeed, Admiral Parker replied gently. But that was a very long time ago, Captain. The civilization, as humanity left Earth over 2,000 years ago. Your world was designated as a cultural preservation site, maintained at early technological levels to study how human society might have developed under different circumstances. Ryan felt sick. Everything he had been taught about human history was a lie. Earth was not the center of human civilization. It was a living museum kept primitive while the real human empire spread across the galaxy. The people of Earth, Admiral Parker continued, are descendants of volunteers who chose to remain behind and maintain the old ways. Your ancestors knew they were giving up advanced technology, but they believed it was important to preserve human roots and culture. On the bridge of the Liberty, silence stretched for long minutes. Finally, Amy spoke in a small voice. Are you saying we're like animals in a zoo? Not animals, Admiral Parker said firmly. You are human beings, just as much as we are. Your courage in facing the Devourer fleet proves that. But yes, Earth has been protected and isolated to preserve certain aspects of human development that might otherwise be lost. Pete Johnson looked up from his engineering station. Devourer? Fleet? Is that what those aliens were called? Yes, they are a species that consumes entire worlds for resources. They strip planets bare and move on to the next system. We have been hunting this particular fleet for several months, but they managed to slip past our patrol lines and reach this sector. Ryan tried to process what he was hearing. How many human worlds are there? How big is the real human empire? Over 15,000 inhabited systems, Captain. Our population numbers in the trillions. We have been expanding across the galaxy for 2 millennia, but we do it quietly. Most alien species have no idea how far human territory actually extends. Implications were staggering. While Earth struggled to maintain 12 warships, the real human civilization had thousands of systems and trillions of people. The Galactic Council had been dismissing humanity while the actual human empire was probably more powerful than all the Council species combined. Admiral Ryan said slowly, "The Galactic Council has been refusing Earth's requests for membership. In defense agreements, they treat us like primitive children who don't deserve to join civilized society." Admiral Parker's voice became very cold, as we are aware of their attitude toward the Earth colony. We have been monitoring their communications and council sessions. Their treatment of your diplomatic mission has been ... educational. On Nexus Prime, Commander Jake Martinez was still alone in the human delegation office, preparing to pack his few belongings and leave the station forever. He had given up hope that Earth would survive the alien attack. The Galactic Council had made it clear that humanity was not worth saving. Jake was placing his personal items in a travel bag when every communication device in the office suddenly activated at once. Screens lit up, speakers crackled to life, and even his old translation device started beeping with incoming messages. The face that appeared on the main screen was that of a middle-aged human woman wearing a uniform that looked somehow more advanced than anything Jake had ever seen. Behind her, he could see the bridge of an enormous ship bustling with activity. "Greetings, members of the Galactic Council," the woman said in perfect English. "I am Admiral Lisa Parker of the Terran Deep Space Fleet. We have been monitoring your recent discussions regarding Earth's application for membership in your organization." Jake dropped his bag and stared at the screen. This message was not being sent to him. It was being broadcast to the entire Galactic Council, overriding their security systems and appearing on every display in the station, in the council chamber. Chaos erupted as the same message appeared on hundreds of screens throughout the hall. Ambassador Zixtel's mandibles stopped clicking entirely. The crystal beings from the Vexani delegation went completely dark, which was a sign of extreme distress among their species. Even the normally confident Nexari admiral looked nervous. "We find your response to our colony's request for assistance very interesting," Admiral Parker continued. "It has helped us understand the current political situation in this part of the galaxy. We had assumed that the Council represented the interests of member species and provided mutual defense against external threats. Clearly, we were mistaken." The Council chamber fell silent. No one dared interrupt the transmission, partly because they could not figure out how to stop it. The humans' technology was overriding every security system on the station. Admiral Parker's image continued speaking, her voice calm but carrying an undertone that suggested anger held tightly in check. "The Earth colony activated their emergency beacon when you refused to provide assistance against the Devourer fleet. That beacon brought us here to investigate. What we found was illuminating." Jake watched in amazement as Admiral Parker began explaining the truth about humanity. Earth was not the center of human civilization, but one small colony among thousands. The primitive technology that the Council had mocked was actually humanity's preferred military equipment, used because it worked in any environment and could not be disrupted by energy fields. The slow chemical rockets that the aliens had laughed at were backup systems. The real human fleet used technology that made faster-than-light travel look simple by comparison. Most shocking of all was the scope of human expansion. While the Galactic Council controlled a few dozen systems around established trade routes, humanity had quietly colonized vast regions of unexplored space. Their territory was larger than all the Council species combined. "Your species have been dismissing humanity based on the technology level of a single preserved colony," Admiral Parker said. "This has led to some unfortunate misunderstandings about human capabilities and intentions." In the council chamber, Ambassador Zixtel tried to regain control of the situation. "This is clearly some form of deception. Humans lack the technology to override our communication systems." Admiral Parker smiled, and the expression was not entirely pleasant. Ambassador Zixtel, your communication systems are currently operating through our courtesy. We could shut down every electronic device on Nexus Prime with a single command. Would you like a demonstration? The lights in the council chamber flickered ominously. Emergency power systems activated throughout the station as the main power grid experienced what the technicians later described as impossible fluctuations. The message continued uninterrupted. However, Admiral Parker said, "We are not here to threaten anyone. We simply want to clarify the situation regarding Earth's diplomatic status." What followed was a complete rewriting of galactic politics. Admiral Parker explained that Earth's application for council membership had been withdrawn. The colony would be establishing its own regional authority in this sector of space, with full backing from the Terran Deep Space Fleet. Any species interested in diplomatic or trade relationships with humanity would need to submit applications through proper channels, the same channels that the Council had dismissed when Earth requested assistance. "We understand that some species may be concerned about this change in the local political balance," Admiral Parker said. "Allow me to address those concerns." The display behind her changed to show a star map of the local galactic region. Thousands of points of light appeared, each one marking a human colony or outpost. The map extended far beyond the borders of known Council space. "These are human settlements within 500 light-years of Earth," Admiral Parker explained. "Each one is defended by ships similar to the Retribution. Each one is connected to the greater human civilization by communication networks that operate faster than your fastest ships." The implications were clear. The Galactic Council had been treating humanity like primitive newcomers, while the real human empire surrounded them on all sides. 3 days after the Devourer fleet's destruction, the galaxy was a different place. News of humanity's true power had spread through every trade route and communication network. Species that had never heard of humans were suddenly very interested in learning about them. Others who had dismissed Earth as primitive were frantically trying to figure out how to repair their relationships with humanity. Captain Ryan Brooks stood on the observation deck of the UES Retribution, looking out at a sight that still seemed impossible. Dozens of human ships had arrived in Earth's solar system, each one larger and more advanced than anything Earth had ever built. The smallest escort vessel dwarfed the USS Liberty, while the largest carriers were like floating cities in space. "It's hard to believe this is real," Ryan said to Admiral Lisa Parker, who had joined him at the viewing window. "I understand your confusion," Admiral Parker replied. "Learning that everything you believed about your place in the galaxy was wrong cannot be easy. But Captain, your people should be proud. Earth faced extinction and chose to fight rather than surrender. That courage is the reason humanity has been successful among the stars." Behind them, the observation deck's doors opened and Commander Jake Martinez walked in.
Nice.
He had arrived from Nexus Prime the day before, still trying to process everything that had happened. The diplomatic mission he had thought was a failure had actually become humanity's most successful negotiation in centuries. Admiral Jake said, "I just received another message from the Galactic Council. They're requesting an immediate meeting to discuss trade agreements and mutual defense pacts." Admiral Parker smiled, and Ryan noticed it was not a particularly friendly expression. How interesting. 3 days ago, they refused to even listen when Earth requested help. Now they want to negotiate. "What are you going to tell them?" Ryan asked. "The truth. Humanity is no longer interested in joining their organization. We will be establishing our own regional authority, and they can apply to us if they want diplomatic relationships." The change in galactic politics had been swift and dramatic. Within hours of Admiral Parker's broadcast, delegations from dozens of species had contacted human colonies throughout the galaxy. The same aliens who had ignored human settlements for decades were suddenly eager to establish trade routes and defense agreements. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was in chaos. Emergency sessions were being called every few hours as new information about human territory and capabilities reached the station. Ambassador Zixtel had not left his quarters since learning that the hegemony's border was actually surrounded by human space. The proud insectoid species had discovered that their most important trade routes passed through systems that humanity had been quietly watching for centuries. The crystal beings of the Vexani delegation had taken the news even worse. Their entire economy was based on selling advanced technology to primitive species. Learning that humanity possessed technology centuries ahead of their own had caused what their translators described as a cultural shock event. Several Vexani representatives had entered hibernation states and refused to wake up, but the most dramatic change was happening on Earth itself. General Susan Davis stood in the command center beneath the mountains, watching as human ships began landing at spaceports around the world. Each vessel carried technology that would revolutionize life on Earth, along with representatives from human colonies that had never been forgotten. "General," reported Colonel Kevin Turner, "the delegation from New Terra is requesting permission to establish a permanent embassy in Geneva. They're offering to share medical technology that they say will eliminate most diseases." General Davis shook her head in amazement. "3 days ago, we thought we were alone in the galaxy. Now we're learning that humans have colonies older than our recorded history." The technology transfer was happening gradually to avoid shocking Earth's society too severely. But even the basic improvements were remarkable. Communication devices that could reach anywhere in the galaxy instantly. Transportation systems that could move people and cargo faster than Earth's best aircraft. Medical treatments that could heal injuries and diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia. Captain Ryan Brooks had been offered a position in the Deep Space Fleet, along with his entire crew. The Liberty would be upgraded with Terran technology and incorporated into the growing human defense network. But first, he had to understand exactly what humanity had become during its expansion across the galaxy. Admiral Ryan said, "How did we do it? How did humanity build an empire this large without anyone noticing?" Admiral Parker gestured toward the viewing window, where human ships continued to arrive from across the galaxy. "We learned early that the galaxy is a dangerous place, Captain. Species that expand too quickly or too obviously often attract attention from hostile forces. So we grew slowly and carefully, always staying just beyond the edge of mapped space." Pointed to a massive vessel that was approaching Earth's orbit. "That ship, the UES Explorer, has been mapping unknown regions of the galaxy for 800 years. Its crew has never set foot on a planet that other species knew existed. When they find suitable worlds, colony ships follow to establish new settlements, and the alien species never detected us. Most species only explore systems that have obvious resources or strategic value. They follow the same trade routes and establish colonies in the same types of star systems. Humanity learned to look for worlds that others would ignore. Ice planets with subsurface oceans, desert worlds with underground water, gas giants with habitable moons that most species consider worthless. The strategy had been brilliant in its simplicity. While alien civilizations competed for the same valuable systems, humanity had quietly claimed thousands of worlds that no one else wanted. Over time, those colonies had grown and developed their own advanced technologies, all while remaining invisible to the major galactic powers. "But why keep Earth isolated?" Jake asked. "Why not bring us into the greater human civilization?" Admiral Parker's expression became sad. "Because Earth represents something precious that we didn't want to lose. As humanity spread across the galaxy, we changed. We adapted to different worlds, developed new technologies, encountered alien species, and learned from them. In many ways, we became something different from what we started as." She turned to look directly at Jake and Ryan. "Earth preserves the original human spirit, the courage to face impossible odds, the refusal to surrender even when defeat seems certain, the willingness to help others even when it brings no benefit to yourself. These qualities became diluted in some of our colonies as we grew more comfortable and secure. Ryan began to understand. You needed us to stay human." "Exactly. And when the Devourer fleet attacked Earth, you proved that the original human spirit is still alive. Your defense of this world, hopeless as it seemed, reminded all of humanity why we explore the stars in the first place." The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Retribution's bridge. A new fleet of ships had been detected approaching Earth, but these were not human vessels. The sensor readings showed configurations matching several of the Galactic Council's member species. "Admiral," came the voice of the Retribution's communication officer. "We're receiving a transmission from the approaching fleet. Its ambassador, Zixtal of the Hegemony, along with representatives from 12 other Council species. They're requesting permission to approach Earth for emergency diplomatic discussions." Admiral Parker and the others moved to the bridge, where the main screen showed the approaching alien fleet. Unlike their usual confident formations, the ships were flying in what could only be described as a humble approach pattern, requesting permission for every course change. "Admiral Parker," came Zixtal's clicking voice over the communication system. "The Galactic Council humbly requests an audience to discuss the new political situation in this region. We wish to formally apologize for our previous treatment of Earth's diplomatic mission and explore possibilities for future cooperation." The change in tone was remarkable. 3 days ago, Zixtal had been dismissing humanity as primitive and worthless. Now he was using words like humbly and apologize. "Ambassador Zixtal," Admiral Parker replied. "Earth's diplomatic status has changed significantly since our last communication. We are no longer interested in joining the Galactic Council. However, we are willing to discuss limited trade and non-aggression agreements on an individual species basis." What followed was a complete reversal of the galaxy's power structure. The species that had once dictated terms to smaller civilizations now found themselves applying for permission to trade with humanity. The Council, which had refused to help Earth against the Devourer fleet, was now begging for protection from other hostile forces they knew were moving through the galaxy. Over the following weeks, new realities became clear. Humanity's territory was larger than that of all Council species combined. Human technology was centuries ahead of anything the galaxy had seen. And most importantly, humanity no longer needed anyone's permission or approval to act. Some species adapted to the new situation better than others. The Aquarians, who had always been peaceful traders, quickly established friendly relationships with human colonies.